Is gone. Many ships have been sunk. They're war-fighting ships, but I guess they didn't know how to use them.
Get rid of their missiles, sink the Navy. I'm not sure we have reached successful conclusion on any of those.
As Americans, we need to think about what has our experience in the region been. Did we like the way the Iraq war went?
This isn't going to be another 2003 Iraq. There are not going to be hundreds of thousands of troops occupying urban areas.
Well, the president said pretty soon. Probably not this week, but it's going to end pretty soon. That's what he told Peter Doocy in the Oval Office this afternoon. As you take a look at a map of all the strikes that happened this weekend as of Saturday, you can see the red dots there. Those are Iranian attacks on vessels. A lot of those other strikes, U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian Navy and other infrastructure. If you look at, obviously, what people focus on back here, the price of gas, it still remains high and could be up there for a while, depending on how long this goes. Let's bring in our panel. Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt, Fox News senior political analyst Juan Williams, and Politico White House bureau chief Dasha Burns. Dasha, covering the White House, you listen for the things that are said differently every day. And there has been a different answer to how long this will go or what the president sees as the ultimate objective.
That's exactly right. And this is the concern that I'm hearing from allies of the White House. There are a few things that they want to see the president do. Number one, define clearly an end game, what victory looks like. Number two, finish it off quickly. And number three, they do not want to see him put boots on the ground. And increasingly, as this goes on, there's a lot of concern that all three of those things that I just mentioned aren't going to go the way that they want them to. And we have heard the president in dozens of calls with reporters give different timelines, give different assessments of what he wants to see. There is this regime change. What does the final Iran look like under his administration?
But Hugh, they have a dominance now over the air superiority. They have control over the Iranian military for the large part. The missiles and drones have reduced dramatically over recent days. They're still dangerous. But you have this Karg Island, which is the Iranian oil depot. It could be a target for these Marines that are going in. They could try to control it. They haven't taken out the infrastructure by the air. Then you have the nuclear material that's still on the ground, and they know where it is. These are big questions.
The latter is less likely, I think, than the former, Brett, because getting to the entombed nuclear fissile material would take, I think, a matter of weeks, if not months, and it will be radioactive when you get there. Karg Island, nothing is easy, but our military is extraordinary. You've been covering it for 25 years. What they have done in the last 16 days to shock and awe all of our adversaries around the world. I can't overstate how much safer the world is today than it was 16 days ago. And I think what President Trump has done, he's been very tough, very ruthless about this, and I want him to continue to be that, will be the most significant decision of his presidency. It will make the world much safer. It has weakened the alliance of tyrants with Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. And the end game is, as Dasha said, unknown, but we are in a much better place. As Secretary of State Rice, former Secretary of Rice, said on a Hoover Institution podcast, we have been at war with these people for 47 years. President Trump pulled the trigger on a can that had been kicked down the road, to mix my metaphors, for a very long time. I'm glad he did.
Juan, there are Democrats who believe that that regime needed to be kicked out, that they shouldn't have nuclear weapons, that the ballistic missile stuff was going over the top, that the terrorist regimes, the proxies were really causing a problem in the Middle East. But now they're all still singing from the same sheet of music, it seems, against President Trump's action.
Well, I don't think there's any question that what you say is exactly right. I don't think I know any Democrats on the Hill who have said that they are somehow in support.
Maybe John Fetterman.
Fetterman is in support of
the Iranian action?
Oh, no. I think most Democrats are in support of the United States, President Trump's action against Khomeini and what was a brutal regime that was killing people. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I think is, and this is what you just heard from Hugh and Dasha, is that they're very uncomfortable with the uncertainty, the lack of clarity and articulation of our goals, our timeline. And don't forget that it's very clear we are a superior military force. President says we obliterated them. Well, fine. But guess what? You know, a guy with a slingshot can do a lot of damage. And I think in this situation, what you have is the Iranians of a belief that with their drones and with their obstruction of the Strait of Hormuz, they can put pressure on President Trump. And I think we've seen it today with the allies refusing to say, oh, yeah, we're going to come in, and then Trump mocking the allies. I mean, that's creating all sorts of divisions and separations on the other side. That's perfect for the Iranians.
Yeah, but, you know, they put their oil through the strait as well. If you have shipping captains that aren't going to go because of the threat, you're dealing with China that does 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Financial Times, Donald Trump throws U.S.-China reboot off course with threat to delay Xi Jinping summit. I think China should help, too, because China gets 90% of its oil from the straits. The president said waiting until the summit would be too late. He said we'd like to know before that. It's 2 weeks, is a long time. He added that his trip to China might be put back. He was scheduled to go March 29th, end of the month. Dasha suggested today that maybe he waits until the war's down.
The politics of this and the optics of this matter too, right? There's been criticism, including from some of the MAGA base, that he last year spent too much time abroad, spent too much time focused on foreign policy. Now he's taken this action in Iran. So staying home, staying tied at the White House, showing folks that he is head down every day working there is really important. And secondly, with China, I mean, what's happening in Iran is far from happening in a vacuum. Not only is it a regional conflict, but it has huge implications for our relationship with our European allies, as we just talked about, and of course, with China.
In the meantime, Cuba is imploding. They've had protesters going to the streets. The blackouts are happening. The president was asked about that today. Take a listen.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it.
Do anything he wants with it. They did confirm, the Cubans confirmed, they are having negotiations and talks, and Secretary Rubio is leading some of those.
I hope he takes it to freedom. And if he does, the first 15 months of his second term, with Venezuela on the path to transition to freedom, Cuba on the transition to freedom, this fanatical theocracy, humbled if not thrown out in Iran, will be the most significant 15 months an American president has since 1989 in the fall of the Berlin Wall.
There's no doubt in your mind.
No doubt in my mind. No, not even close.
He is thinking about this a lot. When I spoke with him over the phone recently, he brought up Cuba out of nowhere. This is on his mind. This is something that he wants to accomplish in his administration.
But everything, Juan, seems like it factors in to China in some way, shape, or form. Venezuela, its oil. Iran, its oil. Russia, Cuba. It kind of all circles into this geopolitical thing where China factors in.
China's a big player here, and you know, Dasha was talking about the resources, for example, the American military resources being sent to the Middle East and the exhaustion of our military stockpile in the Middle East. What does that say to the Chinese about Taiwan? And in the Cuba situation, it's very interesting. I think from what I'm hearing, the president is intent on having the current president removed, but not the Castro regime. He would allow them to stay in much the way that he allowed the regime in Venezuela to remain.
Having covered the Pentagon for 6.5 years, they can walk and chew gum across the world pretty well.
Very, very well. In fact, better than any military by a lot.
Okay. Thanks, panel.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.